Anything's fine. Pretty easy. When you're in the lake all the time, just...
Yeah, are you still every day?
Not now. So last polar bear plunge, my leg turned black, my right foot, and it hasn't recovered yet because the nerves that were connecting it just had no idea that the brain could take your foot out.
Wow, that's interesting.
It was.
What happened? Do you mind me asking?
I'll show you a picture. I had no idea. My foot just quit working and I couldn't figure out why. And I'd sprained it making a rescue, and I thought it was that. And I'd go in, and the doctor sent me to a physical therapist. He said, "There's nothing there, Viki. You got to go back to the doctor." We played that game for 3.5 years. And finally I went to a brand new doctor.
Yeah.
And said, "I'm not here to see you. I want to get into a neurologist." Mm-hmm. But I still thought it was in my leg nerve.
Yeah.
Wow, well, we're already on the air, so this is great. This is how we work.
Really?
Yeah, we are.
You are not nice.
We are. Hey, surprise. Hi, Viki.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome to Small Towns Unscripted. That's why we named it that.
Yeah, totally just raw and off the cuff. And
All right, so this is Tara Kalin. For everybody that's new to our podcast, my name is Russ McClellan. That's Nicole Turner, and our beautiful guest is Viki Downey, a.k.a. Aqua Woman of Manson Recreational Parks for the last 27 years.
Dang.
27.
27
Well,
years.
welcome. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
And I don't know if you've watched any of our episodes so far.
I have not.
Okay, well, this is really simple.
I didn't even know about them, so
Yeah.
I'll be looking at it.
Well, thanks for being brave and coming to talk with us.
she said, "I wouldn't mind at all, but I don't think I'm very interesting." I said, "I beg to differ."
Oh.
I don't feel interesting.
Oh
I just am
my,
mean,
you
and I have fun.
amaze me.
How is that? I just play. Literally.
You know, most people don't play and have fun in life, so that's probably why.
That's one big key.
Yeah,
you,
Well, that's because I vowed that, my folks were workaholics. I'm a playaholic.
Playaholics, good. So let's back up, because I don't know a lot about you. I know of you more than I know you, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this, is so the community can become intertwined, and instead of knowing of someone, like I know of you and you know of me, we can get to know each other through an authentic conversation
Yeah,
about
this
our
is really
life.
cool.
Yeah, so maybe you guys could tell me, Terry, you know Viki more than
I mean, but not really. I only knew of Viki all these years because of the swim lessons that she does for kids in the
Right.
lake. And I was one of the blessed people that got to live on the lake my whole life. So I wasn't ever at the park,
Right.
ever, in Manson. I was, you know what I mean? You walk out the door and you're in the lake. Why am I going to go to the park?
Well, it's interesting, that has been a thing for as long as I remember. When I was a kid, there was somebody doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was.
And so now that I don't live on the lake and I moved back home and I have a young child, what are you going to do? You're going to take him to swim lessons with Viki. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just what you do.
So when did you get to Chelan, the Chelan Valley? When did you
Okay,
move
so I was aquatics coordinator at Eastmont County Pool, which is now, recreational center.
there? Is that where you grew up in East Wenatchee?
I started in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho,
Oh, yeah.
where I took my lessons at.
Beautiful.
You'd go down to the beach, and that's what I was driven from. You'd go down to the beach, and you'd line up. And I was from an incredibly poor family, and as soon as you passed beginner's card, you'd march on down to the next station and by 7, I had all of my certs that I could get until I turned 11 when I could take junior guarding. So then I went back down and help the instructors, and I just can't remember not wanting to be in aquatics.
You just love
That's
the water?
cool.
I just absolutely loved the water.
Now, have you always, is that what you did for a living? It was just basically?
That's what I did for a living.
Wow. And then what year did you move did you go from Coeur d'Alene to East Wenatchee?
So my parents moved when I was 11 to Wenatchee, and of course, as you know, at that time, I'm almost 75. So back in the day, there was
Fantastic.
nothing in Wenatchee to swim, and I'd go to Coeur d'Alene, back to Coeur d'Alene, and
Oh, my.
for the summers and stuff.
for the summers.
So
I
I
did
think
a lot of gardening and
fast forward, the part I think was so intense for me imagining was that when you were married, you guys lived in Wenatchee and you commuted up here.
I did for 21 years.
21 years. This is her dedication to these kids in this park.
Nice.
And did you
After my
teach-
first summer, I figured I wouldn't be commuting at all anymore because I don't know if you remember 1998, but the park wasn't what it is today. I had 3 major gang fights, and not just wannabe gang members,
Oh, actual.
actual, and
Wow.
a kid lost his eyes in the first one.
Holy. Do you know about this?
And I was by myself, and I called for backup from officers, and this is what I got. Because the cell service was not good. So I just went down, and I'm a bluffer. I'm not afraid of anything. So I just went down and started reading license plates. Yes, officer, and this is this number. And this
You
is,
were faking?
Mm-hmm.
So brave.
And they just freaked out and
They
left.
freaked out, piled in their cards, and left.
And you watched all of
Oh.
this.
Oh yeah, we had to, I helped the first officer up there was a state trooper, and I helped him. We cleaned up the grass where the kid had lost his eyes, and
Who would've
This is
guessed?
above and beyond the call of duty as a lifeguard.
so yeah, I
Yeah.
figured
Park?
I'm not one to walk away, but I really truly I'm a Christian and I pray, I believe in the power of prayer, and I said, God, this is not the job for me. So find somebody else. But he laughed and said no. So
And
That's
you
for
kept
you.
coming.
I
What's
kept
interesting,
coming.
my grandfather died in the Manson swimming hole. When my dad was 8. He drowned in front of him. So it's a pretty important, what you've done is not just teach people how to swim. I'm sure you also just mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that you had saved people.
right, and I don't know. I can tell you, I made a mental note. I rescued 9 in 2 hours on the 5th of July in '98, and I told the Parks Department I was changing the way they had their buoy lines and how it was structured, and I said I can't, either that or I'm walking away, because they had the shallow buoy line over to the 4th ladder, which was deep. It was over 7 feet deep. So people would think that that's where the shallow water was, jump in.
Yeah, that happens that day that my grandfather, my dad's dad, died. Another person died, which the irony of that story about the Manson swimming hole, which would have been 1941.
Right, which would have been the old park.
In the old park, yeah, where they had the high dive
Right.
back in the day. Well, my aunt who was drowning, she was like 4'11", full grown, and the lady of the lake had pulled her above her head. My dad's dad ran the length of the main drag in Manson, right, and then jumped in. He was worked at the mill, the sawmill, so he had all the heavy
Right,
clothes on,
right.
and in the cold water. They think he was like 36. I think he had a heart attack. But the weird part is a second person passed away, and then my aunt ended up marrying the second person's brother, who was Dick Finley, who was
Wow.
related to Kelsey Chavez.
Weird.
This
So two
is the small
people-
town stuff, you guys.
So
I'm
two
not
people-
related to anybody, so I don't have these stories. But like people,
And then the
who-
third person saved her.
Yeah.
So she was bobbing and managed to, and my dad didn't know how to swim. He was 8, and he always had a lot of guilt around that because he begged and begged and begged to go swimming. They lived across the street.
Right.
And so not knowing how to swim when I grew up I think he didn't give me a lot of choice. I think he just
Yeah.
threw me out. Like,
Well, there's a lot of
yeah.
people that have thrown people in, but that doesn't always work
doesn't
either.
always work.
'cause
You probably drown if you don't swim.
I've watched parents shove their kids off the dock, and then I had to go rescue them. Why?
Oh,
They'd have
my.
figured it out. Excuse me, when they're laying on the bottom, they're not figuring anything out.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, I remember when whoever taught, I think maybe it was Susie Bennett. I can't remember. I can't remember who
Probably.
the she was. I think I can't remember. She was our PE teacher, so I think she might have been. But
She
I
was a
remember
swim
like
instructor.
closing my eyes and guessing. She was like, "How many fingers?" Like when you're trying to open your eyes in the
Right.
water. And she's like, "Rusty, you're guessing again. You're not going to pass this class." And I'm like, "Oh man!" I was like 5. I don't even know how. Old. It's
Yeah.
vivid. I remember it. Like so, it's a very impactful thing when you live
It
on a
is.
lake to teach kids to
Oh
swim.
my gosh!
and the reason
Yes.
you have them learn to open their eyes. Do you know why you have to
No.
open your eyes? because 90% of the people that get shoved off the dock swim the wrong way.
Oh.
Hey,
I
who
didn't know that.
was
That was the
telling us
bus
that
accident.
story? Yeah, Bob was telling us the story of the bus accident, and someone did die.
Swam
They
the wrong
they
way.
got out of the bus but swam out,
Out, yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of in.
They close their eyes, can't see where they're going.
So, did
So
you teach
it's-
various age groups? This
I
last-
do. My favorite is adults, but I've taught from 6 months old on. Actually, my son was only 3 months old, but
So what's your? I'm going to tell my wife a little bit. She doesn't like the ocean. Like she doesn't like swimming too much in general, but definitely
Right.
the ocean is kind of intimidating. So when someone is an adult and you have that fear, what are some of the things you would say to somebody like that?
put on a life jacket and get comfortable because you never know when you're going to end up in the water. But if you're uncomfortable, make sure if you're by the water to always have a life jacket on. It's just a must.
And I feel like you're integral in there being those life jackets there at the park.
You feel like what?
That you're an integral part of why there are life jackets.
I am totally the reason. I said.
Not the integral,
There-
but you are the reason.
Yeah, well, you know,
Good for
I want
you.
her to say it.
People said, well, you have to take him in at night. And I said, why? People drown at night. Just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, they're going to take it. Okay, then that person's safe.
Yeah, they needed it more than we needed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, these are like awesome mindsets. I feel like,
I just-
you know, like to not be worried about that little thing. Like, okay, so they took it.
An
Yeah,
abundant
and they just
mindset.
need to
Hope they
replace
need
it.
Hope
It's
they
like-
need it.
Has
Yeah.
that been a problem? People stealing life jackets?
Right at first, and sometimes, like one fella, oh, wait, I forgot I was on there. So,
You don't have to name names, but like somebody stole a life jacket and
yeah, he came down and he took a bunch of them, and he was going up the ramp with his bike, and he had them draped over, and I said, no, you have to leave those here. We're going to use them. I said, well, when you come back, you use them, but you don't take them out of the park. Mm-hmm. And he said, so he went on up, and my head lifeguard got at the top of the ramp with a bike and arms loaded. He had to leave them off.
Oh, yeah, with all these years, I mean, it doesn't sound like there's been too many issues.
But there's not been. In the beginning, we used to lose a lot of youth jackets, but recently, it's astounding but encouraging to me as a water safety person. The adult jackets are leaving. That means some adults are starting to use the jackets. So.
Oh.
So how you do adults? How when do you start? How old do you have to be to start?
In our swim program, you have to be 4, but that's only because little kids just panic in the lake, and I didn't have enough arms, and parents wouldn't get in.
Right.
I tried the parent talk class up here several times, and will you hold them? Well, I can't teach holding each person's child.
Right.
So I finally gave that up and made it mandatory for, because
And let's just make sure to shout out that the swim lessons have been free.
since 2011 I got them free. That was
Wow.
my big goal.
Is that through the Manson Parks Department?
We do, okay, so you've heard of the Lake Chelan swim in the fall, and you've heard of our polar plunge, and that money all goes to pay for all
Yeah,
the swim
those are
lessons.
her big fundraisers.
Those
So
are my
how-
fundraisers for that.
So how do people find out about that if somebody's listening to this podcast and wants to donate to that?
Okay, if they want to donate, they can go to Lake Chelan Swim, and there's a donation page,
To lakeshelanswim.com?
or they can write a check.
Yeah, I
and
just
mail
hand
it.
Vicky cash when I see her. you can always just hand her
Well,
some
this
money.
person might be, in Idaho right now.
I
so-
know, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there's a lot of options.
So
But there's a-
lakeshelanswim.com is the easiest for most
Easiest
people.
way, yeah, because you can even go right online. You don't have, and there's an address there if they want to mail it, because a lot of people are nervous about.
Have you been the only lifeguard throughout that, or have you had a lot of helpers? And
I've always had a lot of helpers. My first summer, there was 2 uncertified lifeguards that I had to let go because one of them was on duty and didn't watch me, but didn't see one of the 9 rescues in 2 hours,
oh boy,
and was accusing me of just jumping in and cooling off.
Wow.
interesting. Yeah.
So I said, I think you need to take lifeguarding from me, and it wasn't because he was too young. He was the same age as me, a few months younger.
Wow. It's not meant for everybody, right?
It's not. You have to. It's not meant for a lot. Most people can't stay focused.
Yeah.
And you don't focus on things, you have a far reach. You just,
I remember, like in Chelan, they used to have lifeguards at the city park.
they did.
And then the person, if I remember right, somebody got hurt and sued, and they had to take the docks out. Is that?
Well, okay, so
Maybe I'm
the
wrong.
background to that is they had lifeguards, and Carla Young was the head person. I don't know if any of you knew her.
Mm-mm.
She was phenomenal. And she called me at the pool and said, Viki, I've got MS. I'm going to have to quit. Would you come up and take the park? And I said, I've got a full-time job year-round. Why would I take the park? So they hired somebody else, and a few months later I was without a job. I was up here, so I went into Manson Park to see if they needed it. I walked into Lanny Armbruster. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
Lanny.
Of course, yeah.
And I opened the door to get an application, and he said, you're hired. And I go, excuse me, I haven't turned an application. I must be, you must be mistaken. He said, no, I know who you are, because he'd read about it in the paper. And I didn't know there was
Good for
any
Lanny.
articles in the paper.
Good for him.
So, yeah, I always joke that I'm the only person at the Parks Department that never filled a job application.
Now, they haven't had a lifeguard in Chelan for a while, have they?
No, it's been, see, the state park took their guards out. What year was that? 2003, somewhere in there. And then this city park did likewise.
Is that just based on, from your perspective, is that just liability?
Well, the state park said, we don't have the funds. And so they quit. And it was okay. It worked for them because, as you know, when people go to the state park, they're usually there as families.
They're camping.
They're
staying,
camping.
They're all together.
City Park has quit. I've talked to him. Mike Steele used to work for me for 8 years, and he's talked to him. They just have no importance on it. And they've
Interesting.
had several drownings down there. You don't hear about a lot of drownings because this is how it goes. If they drown and they're revived for any length of time, it's not considered a drowning. Even though that's the cause of death, it's not considered a drowning.
Wild.
Those of us in aquatics have been trying to change that for years because then it suppresses our numbers in the States.
Sounds like insurance companies are involved.
Yes.
Wow.
They're not usually in the business of paying claims.
And then, they
Sadly.
claim, they go, well, they can just swim at their own risk. They do in the evenings, but in the evenings there's still a lot more adults and families there than there are in the daytime. So.
Well, hopefully, that changes as more and more families, more and more children,
Right.
and,
I'd like to see
more
that
people.
change.
But you've
So-
been able to maintain it here for up until this year. In
Up
November,
until
you
this year.
retired.
I think this is a very special woman,
Yeah, selfless.
individual who keeps it going. I mean, some people have a zeal for something, and you can't
Right.
mimic that. You can't replace it. I mean, you're retired.
But
and
I'll be down there.
Of course,
I'm
you're
going to be
like-
teaching adults to swim because that's my favorite.
You're there all the time.
And now I'm good. And one of the reasons I retired is since my brain surgery, this foot isn't working real well. And I haven't had a chance to work on the therapy of it. And water therapy is the best. As you know, when you're guarding, you have to sit and
Yeah.
watch. You can walk, but you still have to stay focused. So
Well, you said you're 75 years young and you have had a brain surgery and you look pretty darn good. Like,
Yeah.
Right? And until recently, this is the coolest thing to me. She acts like it is no big deal. Until recently, she swims every day,
yeah,
year round. This is
Yeah.
like it's trendy to
right.
cold plunge.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no cold plungers with me for years. In fact, in my day, I got in a lot of trouble getting in the cold water because it was feared you'd just die. You'd get hypothermia instantly.
but you
and
knew
it's
the
just-
difference. You knew what it did for you.
I did.
Years ago. And
Years ago.
You've always done it for
I've
yourself.
always fought to.
So, like, how long would you be in the water? Would, like,
Oh.
winter, fall, early
So
spring?
my goal for the last several years was swimming 500 yards in 33-degree water.
Okay, and how long does that take you?
20 minutes, and then
Oh
I
my
would
gosh.
usually play and swim underwater for a while because I'm a fish.
You hear that with the mindset
Wow.
of what cold water and the cold plunge movement now has done for people in their meditation.
Right, and they're starting to realize the benefits of cold water,
Yeah.
And it's astounding to me that the cold water is not my friend right now.
Yeah.
But that's hard for you because it's been your
It's
whole
my
life.
whole life, so.
The
we're-
world has Wim Hof and Manson has Viki Downey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wim Hof was way after me, and he doesn't swim.
Way after.
Look at that.
Breaks
I love
ice.
this.
I know.
She just made a distinction.
like,
Good job.
Let's just get real.
Let's just set the standard here. It's not me.
You'd be an expert to write a book about all that you've learned.
So
Pardon?
You'd be an expert book writer about all that you've learned.
Oh, I can't write a sentence, okay? So,
You can just
Okay,
talk.
well, maybe you could
people-
dictate and somebody else could
yeah, if I found one, that would be fun because I have a lot of interesting stories.
Maybe you
I
could
agree.
transition into one of those interesting stories. I'd love to hear what stands out in your 27-year career of, anybody.
Let's
do
see, my
crazy
first
things.
rescue was at 11 years old at a junior camp.
you were 11?
I was 11.
Wow.
Wow.
And the girl I rescued was way bigger than me because I was a really tiny 11-year-old.
Wow.
I swam 25 yards with her on my back because I didn't know how to get away from her.
That's dangerous too. A lot of people
It
that
was, and
don't.
most
Yeah.
people, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that give up spirit.
Right, obviously.
I was
Clearly.
not born with a give up spirit.
So, when did you move
To Manson?
Yeah.
After my husband passed away and he was gone, I was sitting there, why am I driving up there every day? And I really couldn't afford to come up here because, as you know, everything
Yeah.
livable is pretty pricey.
Yes.
So I bought an 85 boat. No, it's 87 Bayliner.
You guys.
And I put it in the marina.
You guys.
I love this.
She lived on the boat
I love
in
that.
the place where she works and swims every day.
For
It-
5 years.
Did you
And
just jump off your boat and be like, I'm going
A
to swim now?
single woman. I'm so inspired. I couldn't do that. I know right now.
Why not?
That's not in my wheelhouse.
We sold about 100 of those slips. I should have in Chelan. I should have called you. You could have helped me sell them.
Yeah, there you go.
You're a veteran.
Right? Exactly. Let me
sleeperboard
show
is
you how
part
to
of
live
our-
here.
I
Sleepboard is
love
part of our
that boat.
sales pitch, right?
I'd still be on it, but my family and friends won't let me. So I did fall off my boat when my foot wouldn't work, and I went to get on it. And in October, and I spent an hour and a half in the dark.
So is this something that did you have like a stroke of some kind or what?
No, the brain tumor kept
Brain tumor. Okay.
progressing to the fact my foot was going numb, and then things wouldn't work on this side sometimes, and I went to get on my boat and my foot wouldn't.
So that was the symptom that led you to a neurologist that led you to
That's
the
what I
brain.
wanted to go to the neurologist for, because things just didn't add up. I was a gymnast and had never fallen, and I was tripping and stumbling. But I figured I was blaming it all onto the leg, and it had nothing to do with the leg.
Wow. So they were able to find it, fix it,
Yeah.
operate, and now you're.
Yeah, he took a
That's not very long ago.
no.
No.
When you were saying it took 3 years to realize that it was more like a brain thing
I'm
instead
coming
of...
up on a year
Wow.
that they removed it. So yeah.
You feel pretty good now?
Oh, I feel excellent. I haven't felt this good. He said I'd probably had it, he knows, for 10 and a half years, but they figured probably about 15.
I wonder if you weren't being a polar girl, what that would have meant for your
That-
brain.
I agree. I believe that
Whoa.
being a polar bear was what was my lifesaver.
Now what...
Just the anti-inflammatory,
God,
right? I mean,
like-
That
just
just gave me
Yeah.
goosebumps.
What
That's
does
crazy.
What does like swimming in the cold do for you? Like, what are the benefits that you've
Yeah,
seen?
what's your
'Cause,
why?
like, let me tell you, I don't like my
I-
shower doesn't
I
get
just-
below hot. like,
I guess you have to kind of experience it, but that's what the cold plungers now are going, whoa, and then it hurts when they're first getting in, and then they get out and they're like, oh, you just feel incredible after you get out of the
yeah,
water.
isn't it like a dopamine thing? Like
Yeah,
you get like a
it
big
does.
dopamine rush as soon as
You
you're
do.
out.
It's kind of like that in a hot yoga class too, where you get that yoga high at the end of a very humid or a sauna, and then the cold is the other version of it, where your body's just getting shocked, right? And then it's such a mind thing.
It is.
Totally.
That's the part that's interesting to me, that the more you do it, the easier it gets, because the water's the same temperature. So it's really up here to be able to control your own mind.
The water's the same temperatures of what?
If I've never gone into 33-degree water, my brain's going to tell me it's too cold.
Right.
But your brain, you've managed to control your mind, and so the thoughts that you have that are racing, you're able to control it, because the temperature is the same for both of us.
Right. But I don't think my
yeah,
thoughts ever race, because I've done it since I was
Since you were
little.
two.
So
Yeah, you're a fish, so it's good.
I was a fish.
We polar bear fish.
It meant I could be in the water. So
Yeah, that's so fun. Well, I bet you have so many. Every summer, you probably, I'm just guessing, you probably anticipate what this summer's going to be like. Have there been changes over the years? I know you mentioned for a while there was gangs, but are the kids the same? How are you seeing a change in kids?
change in kids, computers, laptops
Looking at their phones.
was a big. I used to have tons of kids down there all summer long. Didn't care if it was raining. They didn't care what it was doing. They'd get under the dock and let it, be a waterfall on them, and they absolutely loved that. And now it rains and it's a pretty empty park.
Interesting, anecdotally, but we've talked about this with several people that have lived here a long time, and we talked about pre-internet and pre-cell phones,
Right.
and being able to be the kid, like just the last podcast we did with Sandy and Mona Miller, that if you got home before dark, there was something wrong with you as a kid.
Right.
Like you were in trouble.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing here? And again, there was activities because there wasn't anything else to distract the kids.
Right.
But you've seen that. It's interesting to think about how now they're just soft.
Yeah.
If it rains, I'm out.
Just-
Like,
Viki and I talk because, and how I've gotten to know her is because once school starts here, the weather is still beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
And
Yeah.
so after school, I bring Brody to the park. We swim for an hour or so, and quite often, he's the only kid there. And I'm thinking, I'm talking
and it
to her.
didn't used to be that way.
Like,
It
where
just-
are the kids, man? This is gorgeous, and there's no tourists, and it's like just
They're
us.
all on their cell phones. Even when they come to the park, they're on their phones.
yeah, that was a huge deal growing up. I lived down the street from Blueberry Hills, about 2 miles, and all of us, Desiree Phelps is, in our podcast
Right.
usually too. Well, we rode our bicycles every day down to Manson.
Right.
Stayed there all day, all night. Sometimes we'd ride into Chelan too, and hopefully hitch a ride with my mom as she got off work at the bank. But, we always were at the lake and always
Right.
swimming. And it's interesting to hear that. I hadn't really connected those dots.
I mean, the only kid. And for Brody, it's kind of a bummer because he is an only kid. So we
Yeah,
want to
it
go
was-
to places like that so that he can run into friends, and have people to play with. And I'm telling you, it's 80 plus degrees, the lake's class, and where is everybody?
I'm curious. How about the men or the how do the kids treat you? Has that changed?
Oh, huge. The kids were determined they were going to run me out within the first 2 weeks I came up here.
27 years ago.
They were just determined, and they told their folks how horrible I was. And I had a mother come down and scream in my face because her son was out there pushing off and going off over the rails, which, it's not that big of a thing, but it is, because once they all start and they're wet, they become so slippery. And
It's probably a free-for-all before you got there, right? Because when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of rules.
no, there
There was
wasn't.
bullies. There was fights.
I just said, well, guys, you're going to
Well, we
have
worked
to
it
follow
out.
the rules on the board, and that's all, But,
So it was in the 70s, though. You think
yeah.
about the
And
difference.
this was in the 90s, so
Yeah.
late 90s.
Yeah, there was a transition, but you've managed to do it, and you've managed to gain the respect of everyone.
Yeah. If you'd have known the first day, like I said, the kids just absolutely hated me. Mothers were screaming at me that I couldn't send their kids out of the park. And I didn't send the little ones because I didn't know where they might go.
Right.
So, but the teenagers, I'd say, hey guys, there's a park right next door to us.
You have a
and
choice.
can go play there. And
Right. That's funny.
But so as of recent, have the kids and stuff treated you nicer?
oh yeah, they all hugged me, and even the ones that were the
Oh.
problems baby back. One kid was throwing rocks several years ago, and I told them to stop. They were hitting people that were coming out of the restroom. They were up on the balcony there, and this is one of my favorite stories. And I told them no, and so they kept on, and then they came behind me and started throwing rocks. So I called 911, and the dispatch heard. She said, "Are those rocks hitting you?" And I said, "Yes." And I was like this, and I had my phone. They didn't know I had my phone. And so the officers showed up, and the kids took off for the old park and jumped in the water as the Marine Patrol boat came in.
Gotcha.
Had them really good. So
Let me ask you something
things
else.
started to change a little bit.
Were you friends with, forgive me for not remembering his name, but he was from Brewster?
Gary
Gary, yeah.
Knowlton, yes.
Yeah, Gary Knowlton.
I knew Gary before he came here. He worked for me for 8 years.
You seem like a good man.
Very good man. I loved Gary to
Who's
pieces.
Gary?
Maybe you could tell
Gary
a story
Knowlton
from
was
Brewster.
a first and second grade teacher when I first knew him from Brewster, and he managed the Brewster City pool. And I was at the Eastmont County pool, and I'd go up and certify them. And there would be 2-week breaks each quarter at the pool. So I'd go to all the Upper Valley pools and certify. And met Gary and Dina, and then their kids, and then he was guarding at the Brewster pool. This is the saddest part. You want to know how bad a community can ruin somebody? He'd been there for 20-some years, no accidents. One of his lifeguards fell asleep in the chair, so he did like all of us are told to do. He suspended her for 2 weeks. Her daddy was on the council, called him and said, "You will hire her back." So he put her in an office. And he said, "No, you'll put her in the chair." 2 days later, she fell sound asleep again. So he fired her. He didn't get his job back the next summer. So he called and he said, "Viki, do you have a job?" And I said, "Get your butt down here as fast as you can."
One door shuts, another one opens. Yeah.
Hey.
So then that was 8 years with you here in Manson.
Yeah.
Right. I
And then we worked together until he was hit and killed. I was the last person to talk to him, which
Yeah, it was a very sad story.
it was.
I heard it was really good with
Like
kids.
by a car?
Yeah.
On a
He
bicycle,
rode his
right?
bike back and forth from Brewster almost daily in the summer.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
These are the stories that, you just
did
don't
not
know
know that.
because you're not in that, if you're not
Right.
there at that time, you
Yeah.
wouldn't remember. And so it's neat that you
Yeah.
brought that up because those are the
He
kind
was-
of guys that need to be remembered,
Oh, he does.
like yourself.
Definitely. Gary was something special. He and I did the only drowning rescue that's been done in the bay in the last few years. There was a drowning the year before I came up here, and I knew that. Did you know the Strasbourg boys?
I believe so.
Jeff and what's his brother's name? Anyway, Brian drove bus for the school.
What year was that?
They were here in the 70s and 80s. What year did I work with Jeff? I worked with Jeff at the pool from 83 till 86.
So what was your first year here at the Manson?
My first year here was 98.
Okay. I was going to say, I didn't get in trouble with you, did I?
No.
Not yet.
Days young. You never know with me.
Yeah, no.
I got in trouble one time. It was so impactful.
That's
My-
so impactful.
It was. I remember these things. Like when you're a little kid, you remember getting in trouble. I was a sensitive kid, still am.
Yeah, Brody's the same way. Brody knows from the very first time he threw
He's-
something, and Vicky said,
Oh.
"Don't do that."
Yep.
And now he's like,
I
like,
got
"I don't
kicked
cross
out
her."
of the Manson swimming hole for throwing a rock, but it wasn't just me throwing a rock. I was actually not trying to do this, but I hit a bird.
Oh,
And then I got accused of throwing a
Trying
rock and
to.
hitting a bird. And I remember thinking, you think I'm so talented at 7 that I can hit a flying bird.
But you did hit a bird.
I did kill, yeah, sad. Bird didn't make it. But I was like, what am I, Robin Hood? I mean, like, I just threw a rock. Like,
you think like I do.
I was like, this is unfair. I'm like, no, you're out of here, kid.
Like, there's no way I did that on
Yeah, I
purpose.
mean, what am I, like superstar? I'm 7. I'm like, what the heck? My dad's like, oh, you get what you deserve. You can go back tomorrow.
That is the
I
best.
was just
way
kicked
to
out
put
for
it.
the day because
that
that was traumatic, though.
yeah.
No, but like I think all kids think and know that Vicky's like the queen of the park. You know, Brody will have a stick and he'll look at me like, "Can I take this home?" Well, what is Vicky gonna say? Like,
I was just
I
talking.
don't know. Go
Vicky's
ask
going
her.
to say, please.
You know what else I was just talking about with somebody? I was talking to Tom Burnett. They found some crawdads in the lake,
yeah.
and when I was a kid, we did that all the time. There was crawdads
Right.
under every rock.
And there still are.
There still are.
Yeah.
So I thought for a while they went away.
Uh-uh.
No, that was just my imagination.
You went away.
You went away. And the kids could
You
quit
stopped
doing it.
crawdad
But
hunting.
there's some kids that still do, and they always come up with. Other kids can look and look and look, and they don't see. You know?
I used to take them home and put them in a bowl and try to raise them
Yeah.
You and every boy is boys.
like little lobsters. I guess they're little tiny
Okay,
lobsters.
so now remind me, there's some like kind of famous woman
Lyn
that you
Cox.
became friends with.
Lyn Cox.
Yeah, tell us the story.
Okay, so Lyn Cox is a major swimmer. She swam the Antarctic Ocean.
Wow.
And in 87, she swam between Russia and America in Alaska on the island up there.
Mm-hmm.
She swam
Crazy.
from one country to the other, which is a mile and a half,
Burr.
and made history, but she was trying to bring the two nations together because it was during the Cold War.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How did you
And
meet her?
she did. She got Gorbachev to come down, meet with Reagan, and they signed papers.
Good for her.
Tear down this wall.
Now, how did you?
And
How
she's
did
still-
you meet her?
And so she's always been my hero, and I read her book,
Okay.
and I wished I'd have known her when I was young. Of course, I'm older than her, so I wouldn't have known her to keep me out of trouble, but she proved to me that I was right about the cold water.
Gotcha.
But they had, for when she did her swim, they had a Navy boat with Navy personnel on, and they tested her. They had her swallow a thermometer. They would, while she's trying to swim, they're checking her vitals
Yep.
because they didn't believe you could swim in cold water.
Wow.
And I said, I believed it, Lyn. Anyway, so then she wrote a new book and was doing a book signing, and I called her, and we talked, and we became instant friends. Just instant. In fact, when I had my surgery, she called and checked with me, and
Wow.
she just, I thought, yeah, she's just doing this. No, she contacts me at least once a week.
I think there's
That's it.
something to be said about kindred spirits.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
so
when
cute.
you
We just
connect.
did. We
100%.
just connected. She'd love to come. She'd never been swimming in Lake Chelan, so that was a draw to her when I said, you can come swim in our lake, because it's one of the few lakes she hasn't swam in. And so, yeah, we started planning, and
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. When I hung up my first phone call, someone said, oh, was that your mom? And I said, no. That's the famous Lyn Cox. And I'm still stunned that she just, but, we just did. We just bonded.
Well, your mindset has to be very strong, very focused. I'm curious, are there days when you were religiously swimming in the lake year-round that you didn't want to swim?
No.
So that's interesting. So when you meet people that are like, I don't want to go in that cold water today, and it's hard for you to empathize with them?
No, because everybody I know is that way.
So she's like, I'm used to it. It's everyone.
But she doesn't, and she says it in this really casual way, but often.
How do
like,
you-
So you're gonna join us? You're gonna swim and you're gonna do the polar plunge? You're gonna. Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
trying to get to, like, from all your experience, what what have you found that works best for the mindset of people that want to get the benefits of swimming in cold water, but they don't like it? Is everybody different, or does it?
Everybody's different. They, what works for one person doesn't work for another, just like anything else. Just the same way with swim lessons,
I see. So you would
I
just have
haven't
to
met
say.
anybody I can't teach to swim, though, so.
Great. I'm going to send my husband up here.
Yeah.
Your husband doesn't know how to swim?
I wouldn't say he doesn't know how to swim. He knows how to like doggy
Survive.
paddle.
There's a difference between swimming
Right.
and surviving.
Survival. Yeah, he's not a fan of
Well, it's
the water.
confidence, and I think of confidence, as you would say. I mean, my wife can swim too, but she doesn't have the confidence.
Right.
So she feels nervous and gets scared, even though I think she has the skill set. And then diving was another part of the swimming where she hadn't
Right.
really learned how to dive. But a lot of people don't
A lot
have
of
the
people don't know
opportunity
how
of
to
a
dive.
lake.
I also don't know how to really dive. Not really. Not like
Yeah, when you grow up
Wow.
around a lake, it's pretty
like jump in.
kind of normal. But for most people that don't, it's very normal not to know how.
You know,
Well,
I grew up in a city neighborhood that had neighborhood pools, so we had swim teams. And that was kind of just the thing I think almost every kid was on the swim team because it's summer
Right.
in the city. Back then, even in
Easy
the 70s.
babysitting service.
Yeah, right? I mean, the parents joined the pool, and I used to sleep in my swimsuit and just walk across for swim lessons or swim
Right.
meets, or that was
Right.
kind of just a part of growing up. So, I never really thought about it. But if you didn't have that, why would you be
Yeah.
diving?
And if you didn't have a connection. And it's neat to know that you're never too old.
You're never too old.
I mean,
like
I think
said,
that's
86
really
was the
important.
oldest one I taught, and he fell in love with it, and he
Oh, wow.
swam. I don't know if, he'd be in his 90s now, so doubt it. They moved away, so I haven't been in contact with him, but
Well, that's neat, like your husband and anybody that's listening
Anybody
to this
can learn.
podcast. Yeah.
this summer I'm looking forward to it because I have a firefighter that says he just sinks. He's not afraid of the water at all, but he said he can't stay on top. If he can swim underwater for a little bit,
I
but,
have a dog like that.
but he just can't. And I said, you come on down, I'll show you, But it's just a matter of being able to relax and get in the right body position.
One of the things that I learned, my son went into special operations in the Marine Corps
Right.
and tried to be in reconnaissance, and he got hurt eventually, but in that process, he didn't, I assumed and he assumed he knew how to swim. But what he found in the pool where they're basically drowning you,
Right.
and then it's a fight or flight
Yeah.
mechanism. So
Right.
they were saying if you drowned, we'll resuscitate you. So they're trying to get that out of you. And when you
Right.
start to drown, they drown you some more. And
Right.
these are the instructors. And he said the people that often did the best in like SEAL training or his reconnaissance training was the swimmers. Because a lot of the guys could do well on land. But when they got in a pool, it's
Right.
the technique.
Right.
And so he learned how to swim, but he didn't really learn like a swimmer would
Swimmer.
learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he found it like you see all the big jocks and the muscle guys and the football players that go to the SEAL training, they're sinking.
They're sinking.
And then the little guys that knew how to swim in swim competitions do great. And
Yeah.
it's just funny that he grew up on a lake and didn't really know the
Yeah.
technique.
I
that
grew
was
up on a
involved.
lake as well, Coeur d'Alene. I was a sinker. I would rather, and I still would rather swim underwater than on top.
So you were not a natural swimmer. You love the water, but you just said that you were a sinker, not a swimmer.
I was.
So,
I
wow.
could just sink real easy. Up until my leg injury, I would go down 32 feet at the end of the dock there,
Wow.
the first dock, and comb around for 3.5 minutes and come up for air because I could hold my breath forever. But
And that's another learned
Yes,
learned
it
skill
is.
set, right?
That is, yeah, like I'm like at 15 seconds and I'm like, okay, I gotta come up.
I have a good friend who's in Bermuda. He's a big guy too, and he does a lot of skin diving, lobster hunting
right,
in Bermuda, and they'll hold their breath
for a long
for a
time.
long time. And he
Yeah.
told me he grew up with it. His mom's like 14th generation from Bermuda.
Right.
Oh.
And he goes, but anybody can do it. It just takes practice.
It does.
Is it practice and mindset, or is it mainly just practice? Because I feel like a lot of it is mindset too, right? Like you're panicked, like
And
how long has
Yeah,
this
I mean,
been?
your comfort level in water
just
definitely has to be a
start
part of this.
practicing out of the water. Just hold your breath longer and longer.
Brody likes to
Until you
practice
know.
in the bathtub
Oh,
There you go.
with the
Yeah.
phone timer,
Right.
underwater.
that's cute.
Yeah.
And he learned that from her.
He wants to be like Viki, and every year I say, "Are you gonna do the polar plunge with Viki?" And he's like, "No."
So,
Yeah.
so are you going
No.
to this year?
I keep asking him. He wants to go. We'll go. We'll see what happens.
How many people usually do it?
It's been building, and last year there was almost 200.
Oh, this year's probably gonna be way more then, right? Because of the popularity of polar plunge.
Yeah, it's.
Hopefully.
It used to be, the first year we did it, I think we had 42, something like that. But
Yeah.
every year it's gotten bigger, which is great because, as you know, it's a big fundraiser for
Yeah.
the swim lessons.
So you're still teaching, but you're not lifeguarding. Is that right?
No, I'm not working for the parks at all.
Okay.
I'm just going to be doing my own free willy lessons.
Volunteer, just kind of helping
Volunteer
people.
to get adults.
Do they have somebody that has now?
Yes. What is
They
going to
haven't
happen
done-
without you?
The last I heard, they hadn't posted it yet. I've told her she's got to get that posted because what people don't know is, yes, I only got paid for 5 months of the year or 4 months of the year, I guess it finally got to be. But it took me all year, planning, negotiating, figuring, getting people lined up.
So how do you make it? How did you make it financially? You got paid 5
She wants
months.
to know how you survived with this as your job.
Because shortly after I came up here, was old enough to draw retirement. So
From another career?
no, I mean Social
Social
Security.
Security? Oh,
Yeah.
And my husband was the big part of me being able to survive.
yeah. What did he do?
Worked for Rocky Reach Dam.
Okay. And
We
you were-
both had our loves. He worked, his title used to be ground maintenance supervisor, but then it went to, what was it? They changed it to, and then the last couple of years it became the Parks Department. And then he retired. He wanted out of it because they weren't keeping it up like to his standards.
Did he help take care of the bunnies?
Don't
I love.
I can tell you because he's gone.
I loved those
Yes.
bunnies.
Me too.
They would have to relocate him because they would just get mauled and people would be terrible.
Yeah, I loved those. I used to.
Yeah,
My
everybody
grandma.
loved the bunnies.
Yeah, my grandma would always take me there every summer, and we'd have
We'd
carrots
stop
and
on our way into
lettuce.
Chelan to see the bunnies.
And
My
just
dad was
feed
always
them.
eye rolling, and Mom and I are like, "We got to stop and see the
Some
bunnies."
yeah.
Yeah, they were so cute. Yeah.
So were you guys together a long time?
But,
Your husband? Were you
Yeah,
together?
45 years.
Wow. Bet that was challenging when he passed away, huh?
It was terrible. Yeah.
But look at you, you're still
She moved to
strong.
Manson on a boat. I mean, you guys
made it work.
Don't
You know-
you think this is so
Yeah.
cool?
What you do in life when your prince goes, then you find something else to move on to because you can't just stop there.
Yeah, that's funny. When you go through tragedy, it's everywhere. Bad things
Yeah.
are happening to good people all the time, and
Right.
none of us are immortal. So I'm pretty sure we're all destined to, be somewhere
Experience
someday.
this, yeah.
So what was the secret to Viki? You just said just to move on. I mean, my grandmother outlived 3 husbands,
Well,
and I used to say, "Man, you're kind of hard on men." She goes, "Well, they just couldn't keep up with me." What am I gonna do?
right.
She had kind of a witty sense of humor,
Yeah.
and she lived to be 101.
Viki
so-
already had her prince, so, you only get one prince. So
She's one and done.
I'm one and done.
Mm-hmm.
But he treated me awesome. He was my backbone. There's always got to be someone that keeps you grounded.
Well, yeah, you want to be the fun one.
Yeah, if you're the fun, free spirit one. They're
How
like,
did you
let's
guys
go.
meet?
Through our church. He was older than me, so it wouldn't have worked well, but it did when it was right.
No, is he
God
from
knows
Coeur
what
d'Alene
he's-
too?
No, here in Wenatchee. I was 11 when we moved to Wenatchee.
Oh, okay.
I just went back to Coeur d'Alene for years because there was nothing in the summer here for me.
Another town that's changed a lot. Coeur
Oh.
d'Alene.
Yeah. I haven't been back there since I've been up here because, as you know, in the summers, every day is here.
Yes.
But I don't mind. Someone asked me where I was going to go travel now, and I said, I'm going to go to the beach and enjoy it.
Not have to worry so much.
You still will. This woman, she's gonna eagle eye everybody.
Yeah, she's
Huh?
still gonna rescue
You're gonna
people.
still be watching people.
Oh, I'll
can't
watch.
stop.
I can't stop watching. Ask my poor late husband.
How many people do you think you've rescued over the years?
Oh, I have no idea.
Guess
didn't-
hundreds. Oh
Let's
gosh,
see.
probably.
Well, 9 in
Yeah.
2 hours.
I know,
mean,
that's
that
why
really
I'm
gets the
thinking.
numbers.
And that was one day, right? So
Right.
you know,
But it wasn't, though. It got much better. We improved that. Making some little tweaks down there at the park helped.
What year was that new park built? Do you remember?
85.
And then, do you remember what year? Because I don't know if you guys remember the high dive that we had in the old park.
Okay. Let's see, what
Barely.
year was it taken out? Because I was tracking it down. You know, the kid that died on it.
I heard. Yeah, I remember that's
So
what
then
happened.
they took it out.
It was literally like 3 stories high. If I remember.
Yeah.
Like as a little kid, it seemed 3 stories high. It might have been.
No, I think
'Cause
it.
it was a long ways up there.
Yeah. But I think it was.
It was kind of wooden, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Like it was like rickety.
I remember that old.
Yeah, people.
'Cause
You had to.
I
that
used
would
to
be-
go over to the state park and swim over to the new park or the old park.
It was kind of a rite of passage, though. It was kind of like the big monster in the city
Yeah,
park.
I love-
If you
Oh,
climbed
I
up to
love
the
that thing.
outside of it and
was
stand
so
on top
hot.
of its head, that was a rite of
That
passage.
metal
Right.
was so
And then high
hot.
diving off that high dive was a rite of passage for little boys.
so you get up there and it would be really hot. So you're like, I have to jump off because it's burning me.
Peer pressure, boy. Peer pressure was real back then. It's seriously real.
It's still real.
Well, then it went away.
It seems now that you've, I mean, obviously, that many years, you've definitely got it down to a science, but I enjoy watching the high school kids that you've,
Oh, isn't that
your
fun?
whole team. Yeah, I mean, they're just,
So high school team, like swim
no,
team.
her lifeguard team and her
lifeguard
swim lesson
Lesson
team.
kids.
And,
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
just-
it's
they're
a
just-
well-oiled machine down there with these
Yeah.
kids.
Maybe you could
They're
still be a
just cool.
consultant for them. Do a little subcontracting.
Money talks, man. Money talks.
I'll put in a vote for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you can't let you just, ride off into the sunset if you're going to stick
No.
around.
I won't. I'm going to be down there swimming, I said.
Perfect.
But see, I want to get back to where I can swim up to Willow and back still.
Do you have high hopes for your recovery and
I do.
how well it's going?
You know, that's me.
Of course. Yeah. And you've met a
always
lot of
had-
good friends. I know some of your friends. I know Jillian pretty well.
Oh, yeah. Isn't she? a
She's a
kick?
hoot.
She
Hi,
is.
Jillian. And you guys are close. She does a lot of the
Oh, yeah.
polar plant. and
I had her
husband.
kids when they first started coming here, and
Mm-hmm.
the girls were in lessons. Liam, of course, thought he was always too good. And he swims okay.
Liam, gotta get back in the pool. That's
It's
hilarious.
funny how many of those kids think they can swim good till they do the lifeguard test. And, then,
Right.
and I go, you know what, guys? I'm 74 and I can beat that test. Why can't you?
Yeah, that's kind of was my point about my son's a stud athlete, right? Growing up and in the Marine Corps, and he's like, I can swim. I'm like, how'd that work out? And it's deceiving. Like the
It is.
technique is so important.
You just got to go with your body and not fight it at all.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, because
I'm
like
gonna
I
try to
can
get-
I can swim, I think, but like I'm sure I can't actually swim. Like I'm sure I could learn a ton from you.
Better
So
get in
this
the
summer,
lessons.
that's
Come
what's
on
happening.
down.
We're
Okay.
now going to be
Come
best
on
friends. I'm doing this.
Well, that'll
I'll be
help
with
Trent
Brody.
get here, and you guys both could do it.
Yeah, that might be harder.
So, Viki, we talked a lot about your legacy in swimming, and it's profound. What else do you like to do? What else do you enjoy?
I was a big hiker. Always went backpacking. Haven't done that for a while because somebody took my summers out when I came here. So I used to ski a lot, but then it got to the point when I came up here there was no replacements, and so I didn't dare break a leg or.
I see. You always
So-
had the career and your focus on the career first, it sounds like,
I did.
in your life.
Yeah.
And that dedication is hard to find these days.
It is.
Commend
It's
you for that.
amazing
And
how.
I think to me, it feels like it comes from her love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like
think
that is a love, passion, desire.
I remember telling the lifeguard when I was 3 that I was going to be like him one day. So
Wow.
that's,
You know, some people have that.
I got
Yeah.
Like
straight
you're just
A's, you know,
destined.
in school, but no, you know,
And you were a gymnast. You mentioned that earlier.
when I was
Is
a
that
gymnast, I liked gymnastics a lot.
in that in high school? Or
Huh?
is that when you were younger?
I was in high school, from the time I was little. I was doing backflips and front flips off the couch at 18 months old. Don't ask my parents about me. I'm glad they're gone.
You probably see those
that
you know,
child.
the kids that think they're pretty cool and they want to do the backflip off the dock, and you're
Yeah.
probably like, dude, don't do that.
Yeah.
Let me show
Last
you
year was the first year in my entire life that I couldn't do a back dive. And so I'm going to try again this year. But I'd gotten I did even with not using my foot up the summer before. But last year I tried and tried. But my goal is to get that back dive back.
It's awesome.
'Cause
Well,
that
I'm
was
sure if
my
anybody can
favorite
do it,
dive.
it's you.
No,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for
Absolutely.
everything you've done. You know, it's been
Totally.
it's amazing,
Oh,
the
thank
dedication
you.
and the commitment.
I just bless this community. They've been a world of saving to me because
Well, you're an
Isn't that
I
inspiration
needed
to
them as much
everyone.
as, you know.
Universally speaking, the theory, anyway, is that we get what we give. And you are.
I don't know that I
you-
gave as much as I got. but-
Oh,
well,
man. Let me
An
tell you.
abundant
That's a
theory,
very
right? Like
sweet-
abundance is
yes.
beautiful and scarcity is suffering, and you have an abundant mindset.
And
And
an abundant life.
I
And
did. You make life is what you make it.
Mhm.
well, you're an amazing person.
I
Thank
know.
you.
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
agree. I agree. You are
Yes,
just
sir.
so motivating and inspirational
Gotcha.
to me, and I am very grateful to know you.
And I'm sure there are kids all
Yes.
across America right now going, "That was my swim teacher."
I know,
Yeah.
right?
I've been
Yeah.
blessed to get to teach
And their
lots
kids.
and lots of
and,
kids.
you know.
Right.
Yes, I've been on the 3rd generation now of kids down at the park.
So cute.
Wow, that's cool. That's very cool.
Well,
It is.
congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. Although I don't know if you're going to retire, I think you're still going to be.
I'll keep going.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
they ask me, I think they should hire you as a consultant and
I know.
add a little
I
add a little
agree.
levy to make it work. Whatever
I
you
know.
got to do.
Let's do it. Viki
Where's
Downey
Michael Steele?
Levy.
Get that guy over here. Whoever we need to talk to, just let me know. We have people
Yeah.
that talk to those people. You know? Anyway, Viki, it's been like an hour. I really appreciate you coming today. Did you have fun today?
I had a lot of fun. It was a
Good.
lot better than I thought because
Oh, good.
I do not like doing this. I'm like, why did I say yes? Why did I say yes? But this has been fun.
Wonderful.
That
to
is
say.
cool.
I thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yep. Now you've been on Small Towns Unscripted.
I've been
Now you're a podcaster. Put it on the list.
Put it on the list of all the things that you've accomplished
Now
in
you
your
can send
life.
it to your friend, Lyn
Yep.
Cox.
Yep.
There you go. Now you're famous. Or infamous with us. Maybe it's
Yeah.
infamous.
Yeah, Lyn Cox. There's no
Yep.
matching her.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much, Viki.